Namaste, my friends. Are we a pill seeker, pleasure seeker, or a possession seeker from the world outside? If that is so, we always suffer. There is no way we can escape the suffering in our life. We'll understand what is the pill seeker. Pill is just a short term remedy. I have a particular attitude, I get upset, I say sorry, the next day I repeat the same mistake again. I am attached to someone because that gives me a pleasure, and then I get frustrated on many occasions, and then I return again to doing the same thing again. I expect peace and happiness, I expect a lot of things from the people that I don't get. Pleasure seeker and a possession seeker. If I possess this thing, it will give me peace and happiness. If I possess an object, if I possess a thing, that will definitely give me peace and happiness is the source of all the suffering. So we will understand that. That is our four more steps. We have completed the first four steps. Now we are going to enter into the step number 5, step number 6, step number 7 and 8. So in the beginning, in today's our session will be an introduction, a summary of all the four steps. If we understand them, we are clear about it, we can get rid of the suffering. So let us close your eyes for a while. Close your eyes, being comfortable, and let us breathe for a minute. Chest breathing. You are breathing, quick and gentle breathing through the rib cage. Every time you inhale, expand your ribs, and every time you exhale, squeeze your ribs. Keep your focus inside the forehead and just continue. Continue the journey. I was thinking that I should add some practice in every session so that your mind is focused to understand these principles. Continue, please. And stop it. Experience the changes or any sensation in and around the body, but recognize and accept those changes. Do nothing. The mind goes to the head and the neck and experience sensation, relaxation, and stillness. Mind goes to the right arm, sensation, relaxation, and stillness. Mind goes to the left arm, from the shoulder to the fingertips, sensation, relaxation, and stillness. Mind looks at the chest and the belly, spine at the back, experience sensation, relaxation, and stillness. Mind goes to the right leg, sensation, relaxation, and stillness. Left leg, sensation, relaxation, and stillness. The entire body. Now see that when you are able to extend the period of this state, how do you extend? The mind enjoys that state and it wants to stay for a longer period. You are sure of moving towards success. In that state, look inside the forehead in the space. So it gives a kind of withdrawal of the mind inside so that we can contemplate and reflect. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. You can also say in your mind, Sarvesham swastir bhavatu, or you may say it loud. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. May there be happiness for all. Reflection. Happiness is our essential nature. We don't need any pill. We don't need seeking the pleasure from the world outside. We don't need any possession because no possession can offer happiness. Happiness is our essential nature. Sarvesham shantir bhavatu. Sarvesham shantir bhavatu. Sarvesham shantir bhavatu. Let there be peace for all. May there be peace for all. And the peace is again our essential nature. What does essential nature means? You cannot separate that essential nature from the real self. Means from who we are. Like you cannot remove the sweetness from a sugar. The same thing happens, same thing we need to discover ourselves as peace consciousness. Sarvesham, Sarvesham Puranam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Puranam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. May we all discover the sense of completeness means what? Sense of wholeness, not only in us but in everyone. So what is going to happen? That pill seeker stops in us. Pleasure seeker, that also dissolves in us. Possession seeker, that also dissolves in us. Sarvesham, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. May there be an auspiciousness for all. Auspiciousness means that we we become a receiver of the grace and the blessing from the existence. All the time. Why? Because the mind is purified, because the mind has stopped being or becoming a pill seeker, pleasure seeker, possession seeker, searching for peace and happiness outside in a situation, in a person, in a duality, in a people, in events and relationships. And then do nothing, looking at the breath. Just keep looking at the moving breath. And now do nothing, experience the calmness, higher level of alertness and attention to listen and learn, contemplate and reflect. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes. Open the eyes inside. Know your experiences and bring the hands up. So the first step, direct approach. Let us recap. The first step is I have to study, understand what exactly is the real self. So real self can never give us any kind of this stress, duality, conflict, anxiety, reaction, etc. But because we recognize the false as a real I, how do we recognize? Whenever we are in suffering, that is our false I. So we have already discussed the false I part too much. So what exactly is the real I? You should always remember this. Keep in your mind. Real self is eternal, means was it is beyond time. It cannot be affected by the time, past, present, future. No, it is timeless. Second, because once I understand, once I have a knowledge, then only my mind brings an idea about that real self. And once it brings an idea about the real self, that we can work on realizing the real self. So the second, the real self is truth. What do you mean by the truth? It is beyond the time, space, limitations. It is not limited in time. It is not limited as an object. That is why we say it is the truth. And false is the false. It changes. The real self does not change. That is why it is the truth. The real self cannot be influenced by the time. That is why it is the truth. It is not an object. That is why it is the truth. Because the real self is eternal, real self is truth. That is why it is all pervading. It pervades everywhere. Means it is present everywhere. That is what we are going to understand that. Real self is not an object. You see the remote? The remote in its object. So who knows? My sense organs in my mind knows this is an object. So what do you mean by an object? It is a boundary. It is limited. So that is why we say if the real self is all pervading, it is eternal, then it cannot be an object. It is neither the doer nor the experiencer. Oh, I'm not the doer? Yes, the real I is not the doer. False I is the doer. That is what we are going to understand in the 40 steps. And the real self does not go any modifications, no change at all. That is why we say the peace is essential nature. That is why we say happiness is the essential nature. That is why we say love and the wisdom are essential nature. False I blocks it. How? We become a pill seeker. We become a pleasure seeker outside as if the pleasure is outside. And then we become a possession seeker for the sake of happiness, I tell you. So that is the first step we have covered. The second step that we have to perform the duties in our daily life. Duty means responsibility. Responsibility means the universal laws are there. In my personal life, I have to keep hygiene. In my professional life, I have to see if I'm meeting an employee or I'm meeting an employer. So I play my role as an employee or employer. That's all. Free from the emotional dependence or tap. Then we are always happy. Same thing in our relations. When I act as when son is in front of me, so I act as a father or a mother. So find out. Start thinking in your mind how to play my role as a mother. When you are playing the role of a mother, you need not to worry about anything. The same thing we have already discussed in detail, so I'm not going into detail. But in the third number, because what happens when I play my role, so I become a father and a mother and the son and the daughter and the employer and employee. So what happens? We find some kind of a vacuum inside. Because we enjoy playing our role, we don't get into any kind of stress, duality, and a conflict. But that vacuum has to be filled by the inner self. That is our third step. Because when there is a emptiness, by playing our role during the day, days after days, we find there is an inner self. There is a consciousness behind any change. So it also means that love for the real self, because now you are detached. Mind is not reacting. You are not a pill seeker, possession seeker, and a pleasure seeker. So the mind finds the calmness with oneself. That is the right moment to find the inner self that we have already discussed. And then comes the fourth step. What is the stumbling block because of the binding and the unbinding desire? We discussed in detail. I'm not going in detail to that. Binding desire causes suffering. How the binding desire develops? Because I become the pill seeker, I become the pleasure seeker, I become the position seeker. That is what happens. So once we have introduced these four steps in our life. The next four steps, we focus on the impurities of the mind. We dig inside our mind, which causes the emotional dependence, which causes the intellectual paralysis, which creates an intellectual fantasy, and then we are frustrated. So we will look deeply into that impurities of the mind. But for the sake of understanding the step number 5, that we educate the mind how to drop and dissolve strong likes and dislikes. Why? So that the mind remains calm throughout the day, in spite of different situation, meeting with the different people, welcoming all the relations in our life. So that is the fifth step. It doesn't mean you like coffee, it's okay. It doesn't give you any stress at all. But we like someone and he or she creates some problem. So we like to seek happiness, we dislike to seek happiness. That needs to be understood. So that is over the fifth step. And then we will go a little inside. We see the sixth step. We experience the pleasure in so many things, in events, in people, with people, in relations, in food, in different objects. Our mind is so obsessed and claims that yes, I received the pleasure because of this food, or this event, or this object. We have to dig deep inside us to find out the defects in the pleasure. Because if the pleasure continues all the time, say for taking a cup of tea or eating pasta, if the pleasure continues, there is no defect, but pleasure stops. Coming into contact with any object, any person, any event, any situation, any relationship, as long as the contact is there, we experience the pleasure. And once the contact is lost, say for example, you're going to the restaurant, you're eating pasta, you have eaten it now. As long as you are eating, you get the pleasure. But once you return and sit in your car, the pleasure is gone. Then we have an imagined pleasure. Imagined pleasure is always very dangerous. So we will discuss in detail about the sixth step. The seventh step is that then once we have purified the mind, so we have to seek the inner self. So how to create the seeking in the inner self in the purified state of the mind? But then another stumbling block comes, that we suffer from the delusion, and the mind goes back again to become a pleasure seeker, thrill seeker, and a possession seeker. We need to change that. Now this is an introduction all about the four steps. So the step number 5, we have to educate the mind to drop and dissolve strong likes and dislikes to awaken to. So when you drop and dissolve the strong likes and dislikes, the mind thinks, speaks, and acts smoothly. It is not disturbed by an object you like which is absent in your life, or you don't get upset if a person you dislike is present before you. So what is the problem? We always want to stick with our likes or dislikes. The two women here, they both are teachers of yoga. So, and they are good friends of mine. They don't want to see each other. So when the one woman says, no, she doesn't know anything, because she does not know how to handle a group session. The other says, ah, that woman has some ego. I need not to think about it. Why should I think about it? Why should I destroy my life? Because the moment you have some likes and dislikes, the mind keeps on thinking and thinking and thinking. And when you keep on thinking about those people, that creates a sense of attachment or detachment. And it results into a desire. We become the pill seeker. Short-term happiness, I told you. We become a pleasure seeker. We become a possession seeker. But whenever these two women, they get together, maybe on some event, you will see they hug each other as if there is a very intimate, intense love for each other. So even at the time of hugging, my mind is entering into the conflict of likes and dislikes. Why we should have that? It is not required. Let me play my role. Go to the second step. He or she is a guest. Let me welcome. Let me do my duty. Play my role. But we keep on hanging. We hang on our likes and dislikes, my friend. It happens with our relations. It happens with our. So we have to understand these likes and dislikes. We have also to understand what is the origin of likes and dislikes. It is because of the presence of the likes and dislikes, we continue to remain defensive, reactive, agitated, having a duality in a conflict. We need to understand it clearly. We need to understand how, why, what of likes and dislikes. That is what we are going to understand. And step number 6, we have to know the inherent defects of the pleasure. Once we understand it, that seeking mind, pill seeker, pleasure seeker, and the possession seeker dissolves. That results into purity of the mind. We are ready for a hard journey. But normally what happens if you do not understand? We normally follow the path of the pleasure and avoid pain in life. We follow the path of pleasure. First we like something, and that we like a person, a situation, or a condition or relations. So because we like it, we enjoy the pleasure. And someday, the same person, the same situation is just the opposite. Even because we like, we don't experience the pleasure. So how come the mind is thinking, in what way it thinks and understands? What should we do? How to examine in our life the inherent defects in the pleasure? So we will examine, understand, so that we can start flying in the space like any bird who enjoys the freedom from the ignorance. Now, these four steps are again very important. Seventh step is learn how to seek the higher self. I have already told you, real self. I have given you the six attributes. So we will pick up each one and we will see how the real self is beyond the time. What happens? You know something about the real self, there is a clarity about it, you are inspired, your mind is motivated, it is self motivated. When we find so when we are on a journey to the real self, we want it to we want we don't want likes and dislikes, we don't want pain and pleasure, we don't want uh, the pleasure and pain at all. So that both way it has to work. I'm seeking absorbed into a deeper state of meditation, and at the same time I'm keeping likes and dislikes at away. And the eighth step is it is because of the delusion. We have to remove this delusion from our system. We will understand deeply and clearly what exactly is delusion. Delusion is confusion, delusion is mistaken identity, delusion is wrong notion about something. Do I have a luxury to keep my beard black? I was 25, obviously the beard was black. So what I do? I superimpose the black color on my hair. But that does not stop me, that does not stop my age. I'm still the same 65 years old. So we need to remove that superimposition. The very rough example, the superimposition on the beard is the delusion. We are something, but we take something else. That is delusion. So these four steps will help us how delusion, ignorance, confusion that lives in the mind, caused by the likes and dislikes, pain and the pleasure, and how to remove that. These four steps, step number 5, 6, 7, and 8, will go a long way in the journey of the self-discovery. It will help us to uncover the false I so that we can continue the journey of discovering the real self. Buddha says about the world outside, when we are a pill seeker, when we are a pleasure seeker, when we are a possession seeker in the world, for the sake of peace and happiness, for the sake of love, truth, and wisdom, then the entire world presents itself as the means of suffering, stress, struggle, reaction, anger, anxiety to the body. So because mind is obsessed with those delusions, the Buddha says when the mind is obsessed with that delusion, this world presents itself as a suffering. Dukkham, dukkham, dukkham. Dukkham means sorrow, sorrow, sorrow. But then the Buddha says we have to examine, recognize that this dukkham is momentary, momentary, momentary. Tell me how many times you were upset with the one son? Maybe 100 times. Did you get any result of upset? No. So now I understand there is no reason to be upset. So I play my role and I enjoy it. So first he says, I have to recognize dukkham, 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 sorrow, sorrow, sorrow. And the next moment your mind should declare, it is momentary, momentary, momentary. It does not last. It never lasts. It is not everlasting. Any pain in this suffering. You were just upset with someone. In the next moment, you are hungry. You prepare the pasta and you start eating. That is gone. But my mind creates an emotional dependence on it. Why? Because of the likes and dislikes. That is what we are working on. So, two things. Dukkham, dukkham, dukkham. You recognize, instantly become aware of the sorrow, anxiety, duality, and a conflict, and instantly your mind perceives and understands it is momentary, it is momentary, it is momentary. What happens? Mind comes down. Why my son does not respect me? Why my son does not call me? For example, I'm just giving it. Why my honey does not call me? So this why contains a sense of likes and dislikes and attachment and detachment. I have this young guy. Young guy said to me that I gave this girl 200%. And after a week, she broke her relationship and she did not even care to call me. And then this young guy told me that I just want a message from her. I will be happy. I said, hold on. Two questions I have. First question, who told you to give 200% to anyone? You have been listening to me for the last couple of months. You should have given 200% to yourself. Maybe to me, because then you have an intense desire. You should not have been in this situation. I just joked. And second, will you be happy if she sends you the message? Yes. So tell me what message she should send you. I will send you the same message. The message is the same, the words are the same, alphabets are the same. Where is the problem? She said, no, he said, no, no, no. I said, that no coming from your likes and dislikes. That no is coming from the emotional dependence. You did not give 200%. You created an emotional dependence. Your intellect is paralyzed. And intellect is thinking as if she sends the message, you'll be happy. You will not be happy, I know. So we discussed in detail about the delusion, and within 2 weeks, he is totally free from it. So that is the message Buddha gives. Dukkham, dukkham, dukkham. Sorrow, sorrow, sorrow. Anityam, anityam, anityam. I have to recognize and realize that any pleasure or pain, duality or a conflict, anxiety, confusion, are momentary. It pertains to the world, not to you. Anityam. Anityam means it is not permanent. Basically, So the word anityam is not permanent, but kshanikam is momentary. I switched on the meaning. Now I'm correcting the meaning. Saru. Impermanent, impermanent, impermanent. Sorrow is impermanent. Any pleasure that we get from outside is impermanent. Anything, any object, any person. Give me any object in a person where you find that here is a permanent peace and happiness with anyone. So that is impermanent. And third reason is charnikam. It is momentary. So once we recognize the pleasure or the pain we get because of the likes and dislikes are momentary, are impermanent. If you refuse to accept it is momentary, you refuse to accept it is impermanent, then the mind keeps on thinking, it gets obsessed, it becomes a pill seeker, pleasure seeker. So pleasure is not there and still I'm seeking. Possession seeker, I want to possess more and more, but still it does not result me into. That is what we are going to understand it deeply. So let us take briefly about the fifth step. We have to educate the mind to dissolve the strong likes and dislikes. But before we dissolve, we should know from where it comes. Where is the root? Cause. So our master says, pay more attention. You have to contemplate and reflect and arrive at the same conclusion where our masters have arrived. If you are still confused, tell me. Let me know. So our master says, because of non-thinking, mind takes over the intellect. First, because of non-thinking, mind takes over the intellect. Mind takes over the intellect. Clear? Now the mind is already impulsive, instinctive, so it has taken over the intellect. For example, you go to a mall with a friend because friend wants to buy something. You have nothing to buy. You accompany him or her. So because you accompany, you find mind is neutral. It has a neutral perception to the mall and stores because you don't want to buy anything. And suddenly your friend says, I like it. Intellect says what it means, I like it or dislike it. Maybe a dress material, your friend says, I like it. Your intellect hears it. And then what happens? Your intellect gives a reaction internally and externally both. It drops its neutral state of perception. And then you say you like it or you dislike it. For example, many people say I like red color. You don't know why you like red color. It has come from because of non-thinking. Some people like green color. There is no logic behind it. So when there is no reason behind it, the moment we have a strong likes and dislike based on the non-thinking, there the problem begins. So my intellect should understand this part. The moment I have like and dislike, I should examine. So what happens? So if I have likes and dislikes, once we have likes and dislikes to the objects and the people and the thing, so what we understand, Master says the first I see the object, it's a neutral perception. No liking, no disliking. Then because of the non-thinking, I have some preference because of the past impression. It creates a sense of like and dislike of a situation, of a person, of a people, of truth. I have one student who is a lender in New Jersey, and there is another student who happens to be from Ukraine. so, so they both were in their 60s. So I shaved off my head and also the beard. And this lady said, I hate you. You look better in your beard. I like your beard. Liking, you see. Is there any reason? But the other friend of mine who is a lender, next day, he joined my session and he brought a shaver, a trimmer, which was costing almost $70. He said, you have to keep yourself totally by. I love you, I like you. Non-thinking. We have to recognize whenever we have strong likes and dislikes, it always comes because of the non-thinking. The intellect just says I like and then it sticks to it like a glue. An internal mechanism is disturbed from the neutral perception to the likes and dislikes. So I told you, non-thinking, mind takes over the intellect. First, I may be neutral. It is an awakened state. What I have to do with anything? After some time, mind habitually likes or dislikes. Habitually, impulsively. Then what happens? Mind attacks the intellect. And then what happens? The intellect starts the alternative truth. It just begins the alternative. Can there be an alternative truth? Truth is always the truth. It cannot be alternative. If you are Michael, you will remain Michael. You cannot become Misa. You go out into the world, you see man and a woman, and you have a neutral perception without any likes and dislikes. You are a Buddha. But when we keep on talking about a person, an object, or a situation, or a thing, mind has taken over the intellect, emotional dependence is there, impulsive nature is there, and then the intellect says, I like this, I dislike this, I'm attached to this, I'm not attached to this. It can enter anywhere if we are not alert. So because of the likes and dislikes, and then the mind keeps on thinking about it impulsively, subconsciously, it strengthens my likes and dislikes, and then the ego comes. So now tell me, locus of likes and dislikes, is it in this remote if I like it, or is it in me? It is obviously in me. Where it is in me? In the mind and the intellect. How the intellect had chosen the likes and dislikes? Because the mind acted impulsively. Just without non-thinking, it has a preference and it said yes. Be very clear. You meet a person, and now the mind internally assesses that person. Oh, this person has the same liking which I have, so you like a person. This mind is the crazy. Mind is the most dangerous thing in the world. More dangerous than the snake or than the rattlesnake we find in Arizona. If we are not aware, mind takes over the intellect. It becomes what? Pill seeker, pleasure seeker, possession seeker. So now the intellect has its strong likes and dislikes. There comes the infatuation and obsession for a thing, for an object, for a situation, etc. etc. So what happens? Our master now comes to another conclusion, a brief conclusion. There are four types of people based on delusion, likes and dislikes. So one is just a pleasure seeker, possession seeker, and pill seeker. Whether it's a wealth, man or women, big house, big car, we use them to just enjoy. I'm just a pleasure seeker means I have made it a point that the pleasure is located outside, happiness is located outside. I'm always on my toes in the mind and emotions. So now I am that. Think of that. What happens with that pleasure seeker, pill seeker? Because I'm go on repeating the things again and again and again, I build up my anxiety, reaction, duality. My personality changes, my attitude changes. So that is the first level. Second level, what happens? I become so much obsessed with the strong likes and dislikes and the delusion that I cannot prevent myself not thinking about the person, situation, condition, relationship, food. Then we become emotionally and mentally sick. And emotionally and mentally sick means my mind is constantly thinking about the people outside. I have no time to think. I'm fully busy. Then what happens? Third stage. From the pill seeker, possession seeker, and you have to listen to it again and again to be very clear. What are those areas where you are pleasure seeker, possession seeker, and pill seeker? So out of that, you have to find out where the mind is obsessed and gets crazy. That I want this at any cost. Second stage. Third stage, now I have already colored the entire world of people, place, possession, object, relationship in a specific way. I have colored means I have projected. Means what? I have projected means that, now I see strong likes and dislikes based on certain attitude and behavior in a person, and that is stuck in me. What happens? I become ignorant. Ignorance takes the high root in my life, and when ignorance takes the root in my life, then I say I'm worthy of suffering. Fact is that we are not worthy of suffering. You're a man or a woman, for example. You're a woman. You are beautiful. Yes, you are wise, beautiful. That too is good. You are intelligent. That is also good. So you see that I have to watch my mind, maintain my awareness. I should not fall into emotional dependence of likes and dislikes. So when I don't fall into that ignorance, I'm happy. But if I'm not, then I start projecting my likes and dislikes. The false I takes over. False I works in three ways. It becomes a pill seeker, it becomes a pleasure seeker, it becomes a possession seeker. Then what happens? Then I become sick. My mind keeps on thinking that object outside, situation outside, people outside are nothing but the cause of my happiness. But they cannot be. It is a false and wrong notion. I live in ignorance. I live with my elevated false ego. That is why listening and learning from a teacher is a must. Do you still remember? Satasangatve nisasangatvam nisasangatve nirmohatvam nirmohatve nishchal tattve jivanamukti. Association and learning from a teacher keeps your mind aware and alert. Once I have spoken and talked to you at a length, once you listen to it again and again, your mind will rewind, will go back where you picked up those likes and dislikes, and the delusion was created. So that listening first loosens the mind, and then what happens? The intellect becomes clear. We start thinking and contemplating, and we find, oh, you wrote me the message, that then I'm done with it. I play my role. I'm happy. From where that idea has come? Because of the intellect. Now the intellect is shining with the knowledge. Previously, the intellect was taken over by the impulsive mind. So that seed is already sown. So that is why satasangatve nisasangat. More and more you are listening, plus you are contemplating, plus you are practicing. A kind of detachment takes place, and that is what you have written to me. Mind receives the knowledge, intellect accepts it. Not only intellect accepts it, intellect retains it. When it retains by contemplation and reflection, that brings natural sense of detachment. So the first change comes, that is detachment. That detachment does not come by the practice, it comes by understanding. It comes by understanding. When the intellect accepts, life changes, behavior changes, attitude changes, we find a sense of detachment. What does it mean by detachment? Mind does not crave, blame, and complain. It loosens the hold of pill seeker, pleasure seeker, possession seeker. Mind does not react now. It does not explode. It stops living habitually and instinctively. It means the intellect is working on the mind. That is the meaning. And the second step, what happens? You keep on listening, doing the practice. Nisasangatve nirmohatvam. Nisasangatve nirmohatvam. Because of that detachment, intellect removes the delusion. Intellect cannot remove the delusion until the detachment in the intellect takes place. Detachment creates a pattern in the intellect to see what is right and good. It doesn't run after what you like and what you dislike. It removes the delusion. That is the second major step. So when it removes the delusion, that is what is dispassion is. Then you return to your original state of spontaneity, naturalness. You go to the mall, you have a neutral perception, not subjected by the likes and dislikes. Nirmohatve nishchal tattvam So what happens then? So once you have a sense of detachment, you find the delusion is not working, the intellect has taken over, the mind, it always keeps its idea of understanding what is right and good before any preference of likes and dislikes. Your mind will definitely become empty. You will find the whole day the mind passes peacefully. It need not to think about any situation, condition, relations, all. Mind finds the sense of naturalness and naturally steady. From the monkey mind, it becomes the monk mind. Monkey, monk. Monkey mind finds a false relaxation when it is constantly jumping. Monk mind is that where it enjoys the peace and the calmness naturally. It is not distracted by millions of the thoughts. Why it is not distracted? Because it does not want and it is not seeking, it is not craving for pleasure, it is not a pill seeker, pleasure seeker. Nishchal nirmohatve nishchal tattvam. So mind almost you can say naturally becomes steady. During the day you are working and you are absorbed. You enjoy that work. You don't feel tired. You are inspired, motivated, self-motivated. That mind is ready for the self-discovery. And Nishchal Tattve Jivan Mukti. Nishchal Tattve Jivan Mukti. So when the mind is naturally steady, you practice, you sit in meditation, there is a self-absorption, and awakening takes place. We discover that peace, happiness, love, truth. Now you can see the importance, why these four steps are important to understand and examine clearly. Likes and dislikes, we should examine what exactly is the pleasure after all. Inherent defect in the pleasure. And what exactly is the delusion? So when we examine thoroughly by the intellect, by listening and following these principles of Eastern wisdom, the time comes we find there is the natural state of the steadiness wherever you sit, you are absorbed into a meditative state. Meditative state does not mean that your eyes are closed. Meditative state can also happen while waking, talking, communicating. That meditation is behind the mind. Satsangatve nisasangatvam. Listening and learning, contemplation and reflection. Result is detachment, calmness. Nisasangatve nirmohatvam. From the detachment to the dispassion, because you break the cycle of delusion. From nishchal nirmohatve nishchal tattvam. From that dispassion, mind is naturally easy, steady, not influenced, not easily directed, dictated by the likes and dislikes. And that mind results into, that mind changes the behavior and attitude, and it results into an awakening to the real self. Once the awakening takes place, it is not a reversible process. That is where we are heading to. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.